Good morning, and welcome to Creative Living Fellowship online Sunday service. Please join us in our opening song, Use Me.
Use me, oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. I used to think God was the sun, God is the sun, but God's so much more than the earth or the stars or all of creation. God is creator, all in all, needing us to shine its light as me, as you. So use me, oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. All that I'm saying is, command my hands. What must they do? Command my life. It's here for you. God is the love that heals all creation. God is creator, makes all things new, and God needs us to shine its light as me, as you. So use me, oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. And God needs us to shine its light. God needs us to shine its light. God needs us to shine its light as me, as you. So use me, oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. Show me all that I must do. Show me all that I must do.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Creative Living Fellowship and our Sunday morning's online Sunday service. I'm so glad that you could join us here this morning for this service. We are an independent religious science church, and we welcome all paths that lead to truth. I'm the Reverend Dr. Sherry F. McCreary. I'm the senior minister here at Creative Living Fellowship, and it is my pleasure to have you here with us this morning. We I said we were an independent religious science church, and we have a deepest intention, and our deep intention is to be a community of love, of care, of connection that opens hearts, expands consciousness, and transforms lives. And we do that through the principles and practices of the science of mind. One of our practices here is holding the high watch. And we have two practitioners who are holding high watch for us today. They are practitioner Carrie Sherman and Reverend Joyce Buchers. And what that means is that they are sitting in meditation and prayerful contemplation, just holding a space for the perfect unfolding of this time that we spend here this day. So I thank you, Joyce, and I thank you, Carrie, for your service here today. I also would like to recognize and thank Rhonda Emmerich, practitioner Rhonda Emmerich, for the beautiful meditation service this morning. Thank you, Rhonda. I'd like to give a shout out, as usual, to our Sunday service team. They are Nicole Jordan, who is our Sunday service director, and Deb Covington, who is our song leader, and they are also our AV team. And we have our tech team here, Fran Peck and Reverend Mary Jane Hyde. So thank you all for your service here today. We have Musical Inspiration today is our favorite friend, Kit Holmes, and we're so glad to have Kit back with us today. She'll be with us shortly, but for now, we're going to move into Nicole doing the announcements. And then following the announcements, there will be a brief gong wash. And after the gong wash, there will be a few moments of silence. And then practitioner Monica Zickus will bring us our reading and our opening prayer. But right now, here's Nicole.
Good morning, Creative Living Fellowship. It is my pleasure to be here with you this Sunday morning and to bring you today's announcements. So if you're not already aware, this is our new mailing address. You can find it on our website, post it on our Facebook page, or in your weekly newsletter. Meditation is a great mindfulness practice that helps us to be present in the now. So why not join us for midday meditation on Facebook to start or support your meditation practice? Monday through Thursday on our Facebook page, you can join us. And our practitioners also hold a pre-service meditation at 9:30 a.m. in Zoom. On Sundays, I don't know if I said Sundays. Get your community care and connection on with your CLF family and Reverend Sherry every Tuesday as she hosts a Zoom meeting at 6:30 p.m. This week, Reverend Sherry will be leading Conscious Conversation. If you would like to suggest a conversation topic or activity, please send an email to connect@creativelivingfellowship.com. We look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. Friday, June 4th at 5 p.m. is Quantum Chair Yoga and Meditation with Reverend Christopher Guru Karam Gallagher. Every first Friday for each month, join Reverend Christopher for powerful Kundalini yoga practices and meditation. Our book study has been rebranded. The Ernest Holmes book study is starting on their second Ernest offering in June. Join Reverend Mary Jane Hyde on Saturday, June 5th from 10 a.m. to noon to learn, discuss, and grow with your spiritual family. They're going to be discussing this thing called life. Not to be confused with this thing called you. It's this thing called life. Arguably, Ernest Holmes' greatest contribution to modern thought is the specific form of meditation and prayer by which man can control outward conditions of his life instead of permitting conditions to control him. Based soundly and thoughtfully upon the teachings of Jesus and other great spiritual leaders and philosophers, this thing called life is an outline of the practice of faith by which problems of every kind may be solved by every man and woman, directly, simply, and effectively. Sign up today for the next Ernest Holmes book study. Are you curious about becoming a CLF member? Are you absolutely positive you want to become a CLF member? Or do you want to reactivate your membership? Well, that's fantastic. The first step is to sign up today and let us know that you're interested. Then we will be in touch with you as soon as we have a new member orientation scheduled. Remember, you can use text to give to make your contributions to CLF. Simply text the amount you would like to donate to 602-610-1868. If it's your first time donating by text, you'll be sent a link to set up your account. And then after that, it's as easy as texting the amount you would like to tithe to 602-610-1868. And if you didn't know this, CLF is a tithing church, which means that we tithe off of your tithes. And our 2021 second quarter tithes are going to Teen Lifeline, a connection of hope for Arizona's teens. And speaking of our quarterly tithes, we are always looking for more nonprofits to send our quarterly tithes to. So if you have a nonprofit you would like to nominate, please use the link found in the comments to submit your recommendation. Our Sunday prayer room is available to you after service today. Get your after service prayer with the practitioner by heading on over to Zoom using the link provided in the comments. And for those of you currently in Zoom with us, you will need to use that Zoom link too. Our prayer room will be in a different Zoom room so that after Sunday service, it gives Reverend Sherry a time to visit with our congregation. Prayer room participants will be transferred into a breakout room for a private and confidential session with one of our licensed practitioners. And after service, we have Sunday fellowship too. Join practitioner Reverend Mary Jane Hyde in Facebook Messenger chat from 11:15 to 12:15 and hang out, discuss the service, whatever's on your mind or heart, or just connect with your CLF family. You can find the details for all of our events with their links on our website under events, under our Facebook events, posted in the comments, or in your weekly newsletter. That is it for today's announcements. It is now time to move on to our gong wash, followed by a moment of silence.
Today's reading is entitled The Divine Givingness. It's an excerpt from Living the Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. It is the nature of spirit to give. Spirit is the essence of life as well as the intelligence back of everything. It is complete and perfect within itself. It is all power and all presence. We have nothing to offer nature other than a willingness to cooperate with her laws. If we are to demonstrate that the divine givingness is a principle in the universe, then we must set up a receiving center. For no matter how abundantly the horn of plenty may pour out its universal gifts, there must be a bowl of acceptance, a chalice of expectancy, or the gift cannot be complete. The divine givingness is from eternity to eternity. Our receivingness may be spasmodic, but many great souls have, through faith, reached back of the appearance to the cause of things and received directly and constantly from the divine bounty. The reason we do not all do this is because we do not believe that there is a divine givingness. The Spirit not only gives, but it also creates the channel through which this giving may become our receiving. In other words, the bowl of acceptance which we hold beneath the outpouring horn of plenty is itself a part of the divine givingness. For how could there be a givingness unless there were an equal receivingness? It is the receivingness which fulfills the givingness, and the interaction is complete only when our bowl of acceptance is full. So breathing into that reading this morning, let's all take a deep breath together. And let's acknowledge and let's remember and let's affirm that there is only the one. There's one source, one power, one energy in the entire universe, and that's God. Perfect, whole, complete ease, flow, and grace, which is God. And God is givingness and beauty and love and generosity. And as God is all these things and so much more, so am I, and so is everyone. And it can't be any other way because there is only the one, and I and everybody else is part of it. And as I speak my word into the law, knowing it is done for the best and highest good, I know and affirm in God's givingness and God's beauty and God's love and God's generosity. And I know and affirm that I am a vessel for receiving this. I am also a conduit, a channel for source energy. And I know that anytime I tap into my heart and turn inward and touch my soul, that I can receive. And all of God's bounty is there for the taking. And knowing this is available to me, to everyone, 24/7. I am so grateful. And so I send blessings and light to all the peoples of the world, anyone who may be struggling. And I bless our own congregation and Reverend Dr. Sherry. And I bless this service today, the perfect unfoldment of this service today, knowing everything said and heard here flows perfectly. And I give great thanks for the immediate manifestation of this prayer, knowing it is already done in the mind of God. And I let my word go into the universe, and it is done. And so it is. And now our musical inspiration, Kit Holmes.
Good morning, Creative Living Fellowship. This is Kit Holmes. It is a delight to be back with you again. Thank you so much for having me. Please just sit back and enjoy and relax this song called The Well. When you're weary, parched or broken, come water, it is calling you. Beggars, sinners, teachers, saints, come to the well. Joyful crowds or lonesome travelers all along the road, come to the well, drink your fill. Come to the well and heal and heal. Deep and sacred, wise and ancient, open your eyes. Elemental for survival, it will never run dry. Come to the well, drink your fill. Come to the well and heal and heal. Come to the well, drink your fill. Come to the well and heal and heal. And
Thank you so much, favorite friend, Kit Holmes. Wonderful, wonderful song, Come to the Well. Let's take a deep breath together. Kit will be back with us during the offering time. It's just wonderful to have her back with us today. So as we take a deep breath, we just continue on our journey of relentless expectancy. And we have been relentlessly relentless all month dealing with expectancy. And I wish I could see a show of hands, just so people who've been practicing expectancy, who have really been living expectancy, living in expectancy, and just being in that place of the expectancy of good always as we walk through our lives, as we walk through these days. It is such a wonderful, wonderful place to be. There's so much power in it. There's so much power in it. That's what I've been talking about all month, about the power and expectancy, and encouraging you to use the affirmation that something wonderful is happening in my life right now. I know it, I sense it, I feel it, I expect it, and I thank God for it. And just keeping that affirmation fresh in our minds and fresh on our lips and fresh in our hearts as we go through our days, just recognizing that expectancy is about more, and that we're always about more, always about more. It's the big and, always about expecting more good, expecting more good. And I had a couple of people send me text messages this past week, about experiences they had with expectancy and wonderful results they've had with expectancy. And then I had an email from someone and another text message from someone who was talking about the disappointments that they'd had this week. And I just remind you that when you're dealing with this, when you're experiencing disappointment, you're probably dealing with expectations. You're probably dealing with expectations. You were expecting a particular result. You were expecting particular good to come, if not a particular good, certainly to come in a particular way. And God doesn't work in the particular. God doesn't work in the particular, and that's what we need to keep in mind. So if you're experiencing disappointment, just release it. Just take a deep breath, just let it go, and be willing to just be open to allowing the good to show up in your life, to show up any way it does, however God wants to show up, just allowing that to happen. That's what expectancy is all about, because we know that, then that takes me into today's topic. We know that Spirit withholds nothing from us. Spirit withholds nothing from us. God is always giving. That givingness of God just is. God is always giving of itself. God is always being itself, and being itself is the fullness and the allness of givingness. Everything that we could possibly need or desire, God has already given just by being God. And when we can tap into that, then we can recognize that God withholds nothing from us. God withholds nothing from us. I picked up something from Ernest Holmes the other day, and I can't remember what it was now, but the first sentence was, God limits no one. God limits no one, no one. So God does not limit us. God does not withhold from us. God just gives and gives and gives, and it just is itself. And we have to stay in alignment with that, so that we can experience the givingness that already is. We can experience that fully and completely. That's our role, is to experience fully and completely the goodness that is God and that has already been given, so that we get to experience a full life, and we get to experience all the good that we desire. We get to experience all the good that is available to us. And the thing for us to do is just to expect it, and be open to it. In one of his essays in the Living the Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes talks about a beautiful valley in the Colorado Rockies that just where fountains just gush forth, and that each fountain is different, and there's more water that comes out of some than out of others, but they all are the water comes from the water comes from one body of water. From one body of water that's at a deep subterranean level, and it has this pressure that just pushes the water forward into each fountain, according to whatever opening there is in each fountain, according to whatever availability there is in each fountain. And Holmes says that we are each fountains of life, that we should compare, we should analogize this and look at ourselves and look at those fountains as our own natures, that we are each individual fountains. And there's that body of water behind us that is just coming forth with all kinds of pressure to be expressed. That takes it to a different level of what Emerson says about us being inlets and outlets for the presence of God. And so if we're going to be inlets for the presence of God, we know that we're that, just because that's established since before the beginning, that we're inlets for the presence of God. And Holmes says that we have to make a conscious decision to become outlets for that presence of God, to be that place and space through which God can express. And so just thinking of ourselves as fountains, we are each different. But keeping in mind, if we want to personalize those fountains, as he says, we don't want to to think of a fountain, or do we think of a fountain as saying, well, that one has more water than I do, and that's because that one has more opportunities than I've had. Being jealous of one fountain having more water than the other one, or feeling like, well, God just doesn't want me to have any more water now. Uh, Fountains don't do that, and we don't have to do that either. All we have to do is just to be open, to be that place and space that we can be an outlet, because that body of water behind the fountains is not withholding anything. It's just flowing. It's just flowing. It's just flowing. It's just flowing. And it's always seeking a place. If you think about water that starts to move, water is always seeking an outlet. Water is always seeking a place. And if it runs into a place that's where there's a dam, or where there's a block, it seeps around until it finds another opening, because water is always seeking to flow. And that's how spirit is. Spirit is always seeking to flow. Spirit is always seeking to express. It's never withholding. It's never withholding. And so the thing for us to keep in mind is to look at where it is that there may be a block, because that's what stops water from flowing. Some kind of block of some kind. Some kind of block of some kind. Let's take a breath together. If you think about watering your lawn with a hose, or washing your car with a hose or whatever, but using a hose, and the water's coming out just fine. And if all of a sudden the water stops flowing, then you don't think, well, God doesn't want me to have any more water, or you don't think that's all the water I can have right now, or there's something wrong. What you do is you go and you look at the hose and you see if there's a crook in it, or you go and see if there's something blocking it in some way, or you go and see if there's something that would hinder or block the flow of it in some way. And that's the way it is in our own individual lives. When there's not that flow, when there's not that flow of good into our lives, that flow that we are expecting, that flow that we are open to having happen, when that's not happening, then it's time for us to look within. It's time for us to look at ourselves. It's time for us to look at, where am I blocking this? Where am I blocking this flow of God, of good in my life? Where am I blocking? Where am I hindering? How am I encumbering the flow of pure spirit in my life? Because it's always flowing, and it's always seeking to flow through me, to the degree that I'm open to it. And so that's what I'm inviting us to do today, to view ourselves as fountains, those fountains, and just being that fountain that's open and available for the free flow of spirit in and through and as our lives. And that's a wonderful place to be. And then expect the flow. Do what we do, and then expect that flow to happen. Expect to be that outlet. And that's the place that we want to be in. So I'm going to encourage you to do 2 or 3 things, as I usually do, have 2 or 3 things for you to do and think about throughout the week, as we move into that awareness that God withholds nothing from us. God withholds nothing from us. God withholds nothing from us. Keep that in mind. God withholds nothing from us. If we're not experiencing the good that we desire, if we're not experiencing whatever it is that we desire in our lives, God is not withholding anything. Keeping that in mind. And then making a commitment to yourself to be a daily living example. Be a daily living example of the goodness of God. Be a daily living example of the goodness of God. Make that commitment to yourself to be a daily living example of the goodness of God. And then you have to ask yourself, how can I do that? How can I be in this moment an example of the goodness of God, a living example of the goodness of God? Well, the way we do that is to move into alignment with God qualities. We move into alignment with those qualities of God, and then we live those qualities in whatever experience we find ourselves, in whatever situation or circumstance we find ourselves. This is how we move into that place of being a living example of the goodness of God. You know, I heard someone on TV say this yesterday, that the pandemic has left a deep psychological wound in humankind. a deep psychological wound, the isolation, the veering away from what we consider to be normalcy, not having a normal life, being isolated from each other, having to change everything that we do, the way we live our lives, the way we go about our days, has been a deep psychological wound. And I would not have used that term. I would not have even thought of that term. But it really struck me when I heard that. And I started to think about how the pandemic, how these last 14, 15 months have affected everybody, how they've affected everybody. And everybody has been affected in some way, impacted in some way, some, of course, differently than others according to our own individuality. But we've all been affected by it. And now all of a sudden, things are beginning to feel like they are opening up more. There are fewer restrictions. There will be a return to not, well, some people are saying a return to normalcy, but returning to life, returning to regular life, returning to connecting with each other, seeing each other, going out more, being around other people more. And you know what? That feels pretty scary to some people. That feels pretty scary to some people because there's a big difference. There's a big thing that has happened over the last 15 months, over the last time that we've been away from each other, just with our community, but in the world at large. People have had to live so differently, and everybody's been impacted by it. So now we're expected to go back out and do the things that we were doing before. And some people are saying they don't have to socially distance any longer. They don't have to wear masks any longer. And there's a lot of conflict about that. There's a lot of concern about that among some people. There are the people who want to wear masks, and there are other people who don't want to wear them. And there are those who say, well, I don't know, maybe I'll just take one with me. And I heard a commentator on TV yesterday saying that he was the way to wear the mask is to wear it on your wrist, kind of like a bouquet. And then if you're around somebody, you feel like you need to put it on, or they want you to put it on, then you can just take it off and put it on then. But the point is, there's so much that we have to learn about each other. There's so much that we have to learn about coming together again and being in community again. There's so much we have to learn just about going to the grocery store again, or going to the drugstore again, or going to the park again, or going to get your car serviced again. There's so many things to learn. There's so many things to adjust to. There's so many things to adapt to. There's so many ways that people are reacting and responding and acting and responding, that we have to really be prepared for all kinds of things. And the best way we can be prepared is to be anchored and to be centered in the power and the presence of God. And to know that power and that presence is always with us, and to walk in that power and walk in that presence and walk in that love of God. And this is how we get to practice and be a living daily example of the goodness of God. Because if we leave our houses, if we leave our homes anchored in and centered in God, we are centered in love. We're centered in compassion. We're centered in forgiveness. We're centered in openness, open-heartedness. We're centered in patience. Oh my goodness, do we need patience? We're centered in patience. We're centered in acceptance. We're centered in all those qualities of God, those qualities of good. And when we are anchored and centered in those, we walk forward into our day, walk forward into the world, clothed in the qualities of God. And when we are, that's how we interact, and that's how we react and respond to other people. And so we walk out with the expectancy of good. We walk out with the expectancy of good. We walk out with the expectancy of good, and we move through these next few days, these next few months, as things ease up, with the expectancy of good and clothed in God qualities. Clothed in God qualities, because that's how we become that example of the goodness of God, because we allow that goodness of God to just exude from us. It just bubbles up from us, and it touches everybody with whom we come in contact as we walk forward It touches everybody with whom we come in contact. And that is so important because that's how we change our world. That's how we change our experiences. That's how we allow the goodness of God to spring forth. That's how we allow ourselves as fountains to be outlets for the goodness of God, for that free flow of spirit, by just being more mindful as we go forth into these next few weeks, these next few months. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how things are going to unfold. We never have, but we always thought we did. But we really don't know how things are unfolding, how things are going to happen. And so the thing for us to do is to be anchored in pure spirit, to be anchored in the intention to be a living example of the goodness of God. And when we're anchored in that, then we walk forward and allow that goodness to precede us, allow it to precede us. And it touches everybody with whom we come in contact. And so I invite you to make that commitment to yourself, to allow the goodness of God to be the example that you're living each and every day. That means that you have to let go of judgment. That means you have to let go of blame. That means you have to let go of criticism, and that's for yourself and for others. That means that we have to just be open and just be available and expect the best when we go out and interact with other people. And I really stress this because we are going to be interacting more, and it's going to be sort of interesting to see how that unfolds. And it's really up to us to allow it to unfold easily and lovingly and compassionately through and patiently through each of us as we go back out into the world. And so let's take another breath. Yeah. And so the next thing I want us to do is to make sure that we keep the passageway of our thoughts clear. Make sure that we keep the passageway of our thoughts clear. That's an Ernest Holmes term. Keep the passageway of our thoughts clear. And we do that. Holmes says that we keep in mind that the creative law is like a mirror, and the thoughts that we think into it are like an image, and that mirror reflects back to us the image that's before it. And so whatever it is we're thinking, that mirror, the law reflects back to us what we're thinking into it. What we're thinking into is what's being reflected back to us. It's not that if we're thinking into it lack and limitation and we're not experiencing the good that we desire, it's not that God is withholding it. It's just that we aren't in alignment with it. We aren't thinking into that image. That image is the thought. We're not thinking into that mirror, that which we desire. We're not in that place of expectancy. So make sure that the passageway of your thoughts are clear. Make sure that the passageway of your thoughts are clear. That means we have to be present. We have to be mindful. We have to walk through each and every moment of each and every day, awake and aware and fully present. And sometimes that's not always easy, but it's doable. It's simple. Just to set your intention to just take a breath and come back, because every time we consciously take a breath, it brings us back to our center. It brings us back to being mindful. And that's the important thing for us to do, and keeping our thoughts clear. What am I thinking? The passageway of our thoughts clear. And one of the things that helps with that, of course, as I always say, as with everything, is deepening in our spiritual practice. I can't say that enough. And I say it over and over again in every way that I know how to say it in English. That's the only language I speak. And deepening in your spiritual practice, deepening in your spiritual practice, deepening in our spiritual practice. It's so important for us to do that. And, this reminds me of a Marianne Williamson quote from the book, The Gift of Change, where she says that when we meditate, sometimes, but not all of the time, then we think that God helps us sometimes, but not all times. When we pray and meditate some days, but not all days, then we get to feel the peace of God some days, but not all days. When we only go to God when we are in trouble, then God's help seems inconsistent, when the inconsistency really lies in us. The more time we spend with God, the more we develop our spiritual musculature, and the better and stronger we are in dealing with daily challenges. And so just remember, when we meditate, some days, but not sometimes, but not all the time, we're not with God all the time. When we meditate sometimes and not all the time, we tend to think that God helps us sometimes and not all the time. When we pray and meditate, some days and not all days, we feel that peace of God some days, but not all days. And what we want to do is to develop that spiritual musculature so that we are stronger in our ability to deal with the challenges that come up. And we recognize that that power and that presence of God is always with us, wherever we go, whatever we do. That is the thing for us to keep in mind. And so as we move through this time, making sure that we keep these things in mind. And the third thing that I'd like you to keep in mind is to just know that God never fails. Know that God never fails. Know that God never fails. That same God, that same power and presence that was available to Jesus over 2,000 years ago, that same power and presence that Jesus used over 2,000 years ago is the same power and presence that we have today. The same God that we have today. Jesus knew that there was a power in the universe that was greater than he, that he could use. And he used it. That's what we know in religious science. There's a power for good in the universe and we can use it. And Jesus also knew that there's a power for good in the universe that can use us. And that's what he allowed to happen. And that's what we know, that there's a power for good in the universe and it can use each one of us. And so just keeping in mind that God never fails. And I thought of that little affirmation for you, if you will. And I invite you to use it as an affirmation. Because when I first got involved in religious science, when I was first introduced, two books that I remember reading first, and one of them was Life is for Living, that we talked about some months ago. And the other one was a little book called God Never Fails, by a minister by the name of Mary Kupferl, and she was a unity minister. And I read that book and it changed my life when I read that book, because she just talked about the many ways that we can affirm and know that God never fails. No matter what's going on in our lives, no matter what we may be experiencing, no matter what we may be up against, no matter how much doubt and fear we may be experiencing, if we will apply that one little affirmation to that, God never fails. And then know that God never fails. Believe that God never fails. And walk in that belief that God never fails. Then that's when our expectancy really takes off. Because if we believe that God never fails, then we expect to have the guidance that we are seeking. We expect to have the abundance that we are seeking. We expect to have the health that we pray for. We expect to have our prayers answered. We expect to have all the good. We expect to have all the goodness of God in our lives. And so if, as Ernest Holmes says, expectancy speeds progress, I'm saying to you, allow expectancy to fuel your motivation. Allow expectancy to fuel your motivation. Allow expectancy to fuel the motivation to be expectant, to practice expectancy. Allow expectancy to fuel your motivation to walk in the presence of God always, to walk with God always, and to allow God to have free flow in your life always. And so I invite you today to remember that God never fails. And when we remember that God never fails, we know that God never withholds anything from us. That God is always giving of itself. God is always being itself. God is always being the allness and the fullness of itself. And it's always giving to itself, of itself to itself, always giving of itself to us, itself. God is always giving of itself. And what we have to do is be receivers. Be receivers, as the reading said. There's that divine givingness, and we have to provide the divine receivingness so that the circle is complete. We provide the divine receivingness, and we do that just by being expectant, practicing expectancy, saying, yes, God, thank you. Practicing expectancy, yes, God, thank you. So I'm going to invite you right now to just take a breath with me. Take a breath with me. And let's just move into prayer. Let's just move into that place of knowing and sensing and feeling God's presence. Let's just move into that place of knowing that there's but one life, that there's but one mind, there's but one power, there's but one presence. Let's just move into that place of knowing that that one power, that one presence, that one life, that one breath, that one is God. And that one is always giving of itself. That one is always being itself. And that one is always giving, always being, always giving, one and the same. And that one is my life. That one is the life of each of us here this day. And so just knowing this truth, I speak the word for each of us this day. Just knowing that the givenness of God, the goodness of God is revealing itself in and through and as each life. That allness and that fullness of God is showing up in each life as perfect healing in every area of our lives. Healing in the body temple, healing in our bodies of affairs, healing of any sense of lack, any appearance of lack, any appearance of anything that's unlike that allness and that fullness and that perfection that is God. And so I'm just speaking a word for each of us to release and let go of anything that would block. We release and let go of the fear. We release and let go of the doubt. We release and let go of the criticism and the judgment and the blame and the anger and all of that stuff that we hold on to. We release it, we let it go. And as we release and let it go, then we have a space created for the free flow of spirit in our lives. We are each that fountain of life that is open and available for that free flow of spirit, that givingness of God to appear in and through and as our lives. And so I know that anywhere that there's healing needed, God is in the midst of everything that's going on in the body temple, in the bodies of affairs, in relationships, in every aspect of our lives. God is just there, being God, being God. And that radiant healing presence of God is healing everything that needs to be healed. And so I just give great thanks as I pause momentarily for anyone to speak the names of anyone you'd like held in prayer. You may do that silently or loud, but you may do that now. And so for all those whose names were spoken here this day, I know that God is in the midst of every situation, every circumstance, everything. God is in the midst of everything that's going on everywhere. And that everything is made new by this radiant healing presence of God. This word goes out to our government officials, our politicians who are making decisions and knowing that decisions are being made for the highest and best for all concerned. There's a release of judgment. There's a release of divisiveness. There's a release of anything that's unlike oneness, unlike unity. There's a release of a sense of separation as we come together in love, in light, in peace, in harmony, in joy, in balance. We come together in God. We come together in God. And I know that peace is established everywhere. In the Middle East, peace remains, peace is. In this country, peace is, harmony is, love is, balance is, God is. For those who've lost loved ones, comfort is, peace of mind is, because God is. And this is the truth that we always know, that God is. And where God is, all is whole, all is perfect, all is complete. This is a truth that I know. I give great thanks for the word spoken here this day as it goes out to anyone on this planet needing a prayer this day, knowing that in the midst of everything, God is. And all is well. And so I simply say thank you, Father, Mother God, for the word spoken here this day, for the perfect manifestation of this word. I say thank you. I know that all is well, for I know that all is God. And I simply allow it to be. And so it is. So let's breathe together as we move into our offering time. This is a time that we give of our tithes and offerings. And we are a tithing church, as you know, and we invite you to participate in this part of the service with us and this sacred practice with us by pressing the donate button on our website or clicking the donate button in the comments, or you can text to give. However you do, we certainly appreciate your continued financial support of Creative Living Fellowship. And so now, why don't we say our offering blessing together? Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God. And so it is. And now, here's Kit Holmes again.
Every day, waking up grateful that I get another chance to say thank you. Every night, taking the time to remind myself that I've got it so good. And I gotta say, it's so good to be grateful every day. The sun came up this morning and I could see it. Oh, that sweet sunshine. My heart still has a beat and I'm still breathing. So far, so good. Everything's turning out right every day. I'm waking up grateful that I get another chance to say thank you. Every night, taking the time to remind myself that I've got it so good. And I gotta say, it's so good to be grateful every day. When I recognize the things I take for granted, see the magic in the mundane, I know that's where the greatest gifts are planted. So I say thank you again and again every day. Waking up grateful that I get another chance to say hey, thank you every night. Taking the time to remind myself that I've got it so good. And I gotta say, it's so good to be grateful every day. So grateful, yeah. I got the stars, I got the moon, I got love and I got you every day. So grateful, yeah. So grateful, yeah. So grateful, yeah.
Thank you so much, Kit Holmes. And we're so grateful that you were here with us today. And we are looking forward to having you back real soon. So let's just take a deep breath together. I have a couple of closing announcements. I'd like to remind you of fellowship time immediately after the service. And today that's going to be with Reverend to go to the prayer room. Practitioners are waiting there to pray with you. They love to do that. So take advantage, be mindful, and don't take advantage of the practitioners, but take advantage of the service that they offer by praying with you today if you need prayer. You can also email the practitioners at prayer@creativelivingfellowship.com. And of course, the on-call practitioners are listed in the comments and also on our website. And you can call a practitioner 24/7. The practitioners are available to pray with you. So we ask you to avail yourself of the service and to not walk around with a heavy heart. That's not necessary. There's someone who can support you in prayer. Don't forget our Tuesday connection meeting. We meet every Tuesday. We've been doing that now for 15 months or so. And it's wonderful, a wonderful time that we get together on Tuesday evenings from 6:30 to 7:45. This week we have Conscious Conversation, and I look forward to seeing you there this Tuesday evening. And don't forget also the treatment for supply. That's our community prayer. And that's what we use over and over and over again. If you're using it once a day, deepen in your practice and use it twice a day. And it really, really works. I invite you to use it. It really, really works. It's an invaluable tool that we have. And then very importantly, continue to connect with each other. Send those cards, make those phone calls, send those text messages or those emails, however it is you connect, to say, I love you, I miss you, can't wait to see you. And know that it's not as long now as it has been before we will see each other in person again. And meanwhile, we can still connect with each other on Zoom and in other ways that we connect, and know that we will be together again real, real soon. Know that I miss you all. I love you all. I can't wait to see you again. And meanwhile, I'm so happy to see you and to spend this Sunday morning time with you. And I look forward to seeing you next week, if I don't see you Tuesday evening at the connection meeting. Take good care. I love you all. And now here is our closing song, our release.
I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life and my